Top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. I'm sure that most of you have heard by now that this past weekend, Amanda Serrano didn't get to fight. Unfortunately, she suffered an injury at the last minute, which saw her sitting this one out. An official statement by Most Valuable Promotions reads, Amanda Serrano has unfortunately been declared medically unfit by the Puerto Rican Boxing Commission to fight due to an eye injury she sustained yesterday. She is devastated that she won't be able to perform in front of her hometown fans, but despite wanting to go out and put on a show, the commission said there is no way she can fight with her eye in its current condition. The decision equally affects Nina Menke, and MVP will be paying her fight purse in full. MVP and Amanda would like to apologize to everyone in attendance, and the company will provide full refunds for all those seeking it. Details to follow on the ticket refund process. Amanda is proud of the way her fellow MVP teammates have competed tonight. She appreciates the love and support of her fans and hopes to return to the ring soon.
This was happening in the background.
Reportedly, it was for at least the last 2 days or so, with no indication during the live broadcast.
Not until the very last minute.
Which obviously caught a lot of people off guard. Former fighter turned analyst Sergio Mora said, I've never seen a main event get canceled minutes before coming out of the locker room due to an eye injury. Serious injuries like this get spotted at the weigh-in, not minutes before entering the ring to fight.
Sergio Mora seems to have been skeptical about the whole thing, as was veteran boxing scribe Gail Falkenthal.
Gail said, I don't blame Amanda, but things aren't adding up. She stated the injury occurred 36 hours ago during a hair appointment, but the fight is officially canceled seconds before a ring walk.
They were skeptical.
Myself, I take the story at face value. I take the story for how it's being presented, for how it is, because if nothing else, you know Amanda Serrano wanted to do this. You know that if she could have fought, she would have fought.
She wanted this.
She wanted this for her fans, for her island, and for herself. It was a fairy tale homecoming.
Kind of homecoming a fighter dreams about throughout their whole career.
Ariel Helwani tweeted, according to Nikisa Badarian, Serrano had her hair done on Thursday night. She went for a run on Friday. A chemical from the hair went into her eye. It started bothering her on Friday, and that's why she wore glasses at the ceremonials. Bothered her all day today, and when they examined her tonight at the arena, the commission doctor wouldn't clear her. She tried to convince them otherwise, but alas, no luck. Jake Paul adds that the chemical burnt her cornea and hand. The gate was about $1.5 million, and Badarian says they will refund it all back 100%. The way I see it, Amanda Serrano was in a sport of boxing, sport of women's boxing, long before its renaissance, long before major promotional outfits like Top Rank and Golden Boy and Matchroom started taking an interest in it and signing female fighters of their own. Yes, Amanda Serrano was in the sport long before there was any money.
This was the kind of event that she likely dreamed of for many, many years.
The kind of event that in some instances didn't seem possible, at least not in those days. To see it realized and to see how many fans showed up and showed out to support, to be there, to see it, she wouldn't have pulled out unless she had no choice.
Bottom line.
Even with her eye bothering her, I think that if they let Amanda go out there, if they would have let her, she would have. Even with the injury, she would have fought through it, because that's how bad I think she wanted this. So where some are skeptical about how information was divulged,
I'm not.
I don't have a doubt in my mind that Amanda wanted to fight, and if she could have fought, she would have fought. And had she would have beat Nina Menke.
Who's being compensated? She's being awarded her full purse.
People at Most Valuable Promotions have been very classy and very cordial throughout this ordeal. Credit to them. But if the fight would have went through, I don't have a doubt in my mind that Amanda would have beat her. So this ain't a situation to where this is a fighter trying to get out of a tough fight or anything like that. There's no reason to believe there's any funny business going on.
There isn't.
It looks how they're saying it looks. If Amanda could have fought, she would have fought. It's unfortunate. My only question is, what's the severity of the injury? How long will it take for Amanda to recover?
Is there enough time for her to schedule another fight before this year is out?
Are they going to try to do this again? Another homecoming fight on the island of Puerto Rico? Are they going to reschedule the Menke fight?
I don't know. They'd been planning this for months.
At the start of the card, when Crystal Rosado was in there, there were a lot of people in attendance. Can they get that same turnout if they reschedule this thing? And what about Amanda Serrano's PFL contract? Her return to the sport of mixed martial arts. What's the ETA on that versus how much time she might have left to schedule a boxing match in tandem with the amount of time it will take her to recover.
Just hope she has a speedy recovery, because you know she wanted this.
She always wanted to perform on her island in front of her fans, her supporters. Being that outspoken Puerto Rican fighter, that Puerto Rican ambassador for the legacy of Puerto Rican boxing, Amanda Serrano is all those things and more, making history for herself and her people and for her island. If she could have fought, she would have fought.
It's very unfortunate she got injured.
And unfortunately, these things happen. Yet another bombshell that dropped this weekend in the sport of boxing that can often take you by surprise, dubbed the theater of the unexpected for good reason. Dan Rafael tweeted per sources, with direct knowledge of what's up, a lot of things are still on the table for Canelo. Multiple platforms, promoters, opponents, Amazon and PBC are back in the mix, but nothing is done, with various scenarios being considered.
Wait, so he's staying with them?
Seems to be the story that Al Heyman and his inferior PBC, what I find to be an inferior product that's grossly overpriced, they may still be in the picture for Canelo Alvarez's next fight.
Rumors of Canelo perhaps staying with the PBC have been circulating for at least the last 2 or 3 days, I want to say. 2 or 3.
Boxing insider Rick Glacier, who was the first to break news of trouble in paradise between Canelo and the PBC, he responded to those rumors about 2 or 3 days ago saying, "Stop listening to crazy bullabula internet rumors. Here's a fact. If Canelo Munguia happens next for Canelo, it will unequivocally be on DAZN pay-per-view. It will not be on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Now, you really know."
That's what he was saying before.
What he's saying now in regards to this latest development is, let's now see how the Canelo Munguia process plays out. A lot of things can happen from the lip to pen and paper. And until the fighters get in the ring, this turnaround happened because Eddie Hearn highly insulted Canelo manager, trainer Eddie Reynoso while in negotiations for the fight to be on DAZN.
What?
Did Eddie Hearn screw the pooch? And if the story checks out, and he did in fact so offend Eddie Reynoso, what was that in regards to? What did he say? What was that all about?
Details are just coming out.
I won't even pretend to have a fix on this story because it's still fluid, very immaterial, and there's room for a lot of things to happen. I don't know what Eddie Hearn could have said or what it was in regards to.
Do you think Team Canelo were being a little bit too demanding?
Perhaps they were, and perhaps they tried Eddie Hearn's patience with whatever demands they had, but that's just me bouncing ideas around. We don't know that an idea like that holds any water. Ultimately, it's all just rumors and should be treated as such.
Eddie Hearn was in attendance for the Top Rank show this past weekend. He was there to support Raymond Ford.
He was asked about the whole thing happening on the PBC instead of DAZN, and he said, "I don't think it's official yet. We'll have to see. Obviously, he's with PBC, isn't he? I don't know how that contract sits. Was it a 3-fight deal? I know Munguia is a DAZN fighter, so I'm not sure how that'll play out with Golden Boy. We'll see what plays out."
Doesn't sound too confident.
My thoughts. We've been talking a lot about the PBC's current predicament. Now that Showtime has left the sport of boxing after 37 years, now that Showtime has left the sport of boxing and Fox alongside them, 2 of the PBC's former broadcast partners, the position that has put them in and how they are now operating at a reduced capacity. They don't have as many resources as they did before.
The Amazon deal.
And how the deal's structure may not be enough to accommodate all of their fighters, which was evident in Stefan Espinosa's latest comments about them looking for another broadcast partner, a new one, for a more traditional partnership.
How this time last year, from January into March, they did about 5 shows. Whereas this year, they're only doing 1.
Last year, they did 3 regular shows and 2 pay-per-views from January into March. Whereas this year, they're only doing 1, and it's a pay-per-view. It's behind a paywall that it's evident.
Yes.
They're operating at a reduced capacity.
It's just got to do with Canelo.
That whether Canelo Alvarez leaves or Canelo Alvarez stays, he by himself may not be enough to keep them afloat unless something changes, unless something major happens. Should Canelo Alvarez stay and see out the life of the deal, which is reported to be at least 2 more fights,
You can do 2 big fights, 2 big shows this year. But you did 2 big fights, 2 big shows last year.
very big shows, the biggest in the previous year, but that by itself was not enough to save them. That wasn't enough to salvage their relationship with Showtime and Paramount. When the deal came to an end, the people at Paramount, they didn't offer them a new deal. They didn't offer to renew.
We know why.
Chris McCarthy, the CEO of Paramount, He said it in plain English. They were going to be moving resources away from any underperforming content.
Anything that accounts for less than 10% of their views.
Any underperforming content that wasn't delivering eyes to their platform. What successful shows and content was on Showtime was funneled over to Paramount Plus.
Absorbed. And they got rid of what they felt they didn't need, what they really didn't want. That's saying that when the deal finally came to an end, that's why Paramount didn't offer them nothing. That's why they decided not to renew with them. So when you end up on Amazon with a distribution deal and a lot less fight dates than you did before, a lot less resources, it's not because of how well you're doing.
What's all of this got to do with Canelo?
That their issues are not limited to Canelo Alvarez staying or leaving.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. That there's a lot more going on there than Canelo Alvarez terminating the deal prematurely.
If he does.
And even if Canelo Alvarez's next 2 fights land on PBC on Prime, that doesn't solve all their problems. Why are they even looking at a Zanfer/Golden Boy Promotions fighter anyway, when they identified that they would not be able to sell a Jermall Charlo fight given how Jermell just looked with Canelo and how Jermall just looked with Jose Benavidez? Why did they have to look outside of their own stable?
They clearly couldn't honor the deal as it was.
Per reports, if the deal was that he's going to fight Jermell, then he's going to fight Jermall afterwards. Clearly, you couldn't honor the deal as it was. You had to make some alterations that involved a fighter that wasn't one of your fighters.
Which confirms the rumors.
If Canelo Alvarez ends up staying and having that Jaime Munguia fight on the PBC side of things, that doesn't dispel all the rumors, because we were hearing rumors that there was trouble in paradise for weeks.
Regarding his guarantee, regarding what they were supposed to pay him and who it was for.
All of that turned out to be true. Several prominent members of the media corroborated all of those rumors and all of those whispers.
A lot of people who got really upset at me and others for talking about it here on this platform and others.
Even if Canelo Alvarez stays and has that Munguia fight on their platform and another afterwards, that in and of itself does not solve all their problems, and why anyone would get upset that I'm pointing this out.
You want me to say it nicer?
What are these individuals angry about? What are they angry at exactly?
That I think the PBC is an inferior product that's grossly overpriced?
That many of their business decisions have led them to this predicament that sees them operating at a reduced capacity with a scarcity of fight dates and fighters that are leaving their stable of fighters. It is thinning out.
You want me to say it nicer?
Ray Vargas is fighting in a non-PBC show. Subriel Matias, he signed to Matchroom, and several other former champions at the PBC have been seen boxing on small, non-televised shows.
You want me to say it nicer?
Or is it that you want me to not talk about it altogether because of how it makes Al Heyman look, how it reflects on Al Heyman and his PBC?
Does that bother you?
Is it that you can't enjoy the PBC's content unless Ring IQ enjoys it alongside you?
Am I affecting your viewing pleasure?
What viewing pleasure? They didn't do any cards in January, none in February, there's only one in March. That's not made up.
Where last year they did 5 shows from January to March.
That's not made up. I think what these guys' problem is they have an unusual fixation with Al Heyman and his PBC.
And they want me and everybody else to have that same fixation.
Canelo Alvarez can stay. He can stay and have his next 2 fights there, but that might not be enough to bail them out of this predicament. It might not.
Does that bother you?
Tough titty, bitch. Just because you'd give a hand job to Al Heyman under the table doesn't mean the rest of us are into that shit.
Fuck off.
And if the narrative was
that
Canelo Alvarez leaving the PBC was a testament to him avoiding David Benavidez, what does it say if he stays? Terrence Crawford was asked if he believes Canelo Alvarez left Al Heyman's PBC to avoid fighting him and David Benavidez. Before all this news broke, he was asked about that, and he said, "I don't think that's true. I think it's his own personal reasons. Me and Canelo have never been in talks for a fight. That's a fight I would take in a heartbeat, but no, I don't think he moved because of me and David Benavidez. I just think he's handling his career the way he wants to, in spite of some individuals that would have you believe that Canelo's avoiding Terrence.
Terrence doesn't think that.
In spite of some individuals that would have you believe that Canelo's avoiding David.
Because he left the PBC.
Or because he was said to have left the PBC. If he stays, then what does that mean? What stands out to me is that Al Heyman,
he never made David part of the deal.
When he wrote up a contract for Canelo Alvarez in the summer of last year and offered him 3 names or 3 fights or 3 fighters or whatever it was, David wasn't part of that picture. And here and now, in this year, when they identified that they couldn't sell a Jermall Charlo fight, he still didn't offer up David. He looked outside of his own stable.
Why?
That if a fighter, a free agent,
signs to a matchroom, it's presumably to fight matchroom fighters. If he signs to a top rank, it's presumably to fight top rank fighters. So when Canelo Alvarez signs to a PBC,
Al offers him a guy from Golden Boy.
I mean, yeah, it was after he realized they can't stick to the original deal. You can't sell a Jermall Charlo fight, but why are you looking at a Golden Boy Promotions fighter instead of one of your own fighters? What about David Benavidez? Why was he never part of the original 3-fight deal? And when you realized you couldn't stick to it, why didn't you offer him up next?
He's going up to 175, that's what he says, but he's willing to come back down for the Canelo Alvarez fight if Canelo Alvarez stays with them through the life of the deal. 2 more fights. Are we going to get that fight, or are we not going to get that fight?
As far as the trolls and those strange individuals and their affinity, their fixation for not only Al Heyman, but what other people, complete strangers, think of Al Heyman.
Guys are losers.
You don't even like Canelo Alvarez. You're not fans of him, but you know what it means if he leaves. So as much complaining as you do about him, you know that Al Heyman needs him because he ain't got much of a schedule without him. You better hope these rumors turn out to be true, that he actually stays.
Because you can't sell those scrubs if he actually leaves.
Al Heyman's claim to fame isn't grooming fighters or developing fighters. All he does is step in after the product's already a finished product.
Like he did with Floyd, who was developed by Top Rank, not Al Heyman.
Canelo Alvarez was developed by Golden Boy, not Al Heyman. You don't like me saying that? Well, it's the fucking truth.
You want me to say it nicer?
You want me to say more positive things about the PBC because you're tired of hearing me say it's a grossly overpriced and inferior product with B, C, and D level fighters?
That lose all their big fights.
Step out of that fucking bubble, watch what happens. How Wilder lost to Fury, Denny lost to Parker, how Fulton lost to Inouye, how Spence lost to Crawford.
Inferior.
Porter lost to Crawford, Stevenson lost to Vosdick.
Inferior.
Charles Martin lost to Joshua. You think I'm supposed to hold off on talking about all this stuff and bringing it up because of your fucking identity politics?
Fuck you and your identity.
Give a fuck about you.
Nobody
gives a fuck about you.
weak bitch.
He actually celebrating that Canelo Alvarez, who you guys don't even like, is staying with Al Heyman's inferior PBC?
Is that how desperate you guys are?
Wow.